Welcome back.
Thanks. Yeah, I didn't hear anything from Mike.
Yeah, no, I didn't either. So we'll see. I mean, he travels so much. You know, I'll be perfectly honest. I was in the hospital over the weekend, and everything is fine, but it just set me back. I'm never finished up some of last week's assignments, and now I'm trying to get caught up on this one. So I will
Oh,
be.
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it was just it was a crazy. Oh, this looks wrong. Let's do this test. This looks wrong. Let's do this test. This looks wrong. Let's do this test. And 3 days later, they're like, "Oh, you're fine. Go home." Which I'm very grateful for, but
Yes, at least it was a good outcome. I'm a little bit behind too from traveling. I got home at 1:30 last night, so I've read some of it, but not all of it.
Yeah, so I can't say I've read it, hardly any of it. So it's just a skim of the whole thing. So
Yeah. I did kind of a speed read, more so just to answer the questions for this video call than learn anything, which is probably not how it should be, but
yeah, well, I just learned like literally 2 lessons ago that it's very helpful for me to do the Learn Smarts first. Like I was putting them off to the end, but it was very helpful because it kind of forces me to read. So then
yeah.
you read the material to answer the questions, and that has helped me. But I really haven't, I haven't done any of it, so I will not be any help. I will broadcast it. That's about as much help as I'm going to be.
Well, I didn't get them all answered, but I'll see what I can do.
Okay, we'll figure it out. Find it as we go along, I guess. So we can get started, and hopefully Mike will pop in if he emails anybody, because I sent the email to him, but.
Okay.
All right, just a
Yeah, I
minute.
might have to bail just a little bit early, depending on how quick we get through this.
Okay. So.
I just can't believe. I don't know, I feel like I'm always slacking. I've been so busy lately. Like I just got off work at 5:30, so I pulled in the driveway at 5:56 and hurried and tried to boot up my computer.
Oh my
I
gosh.
have a meeting every Wednesday at 6:45, 7-ish. So just trying to squeeze this in here.
Well, and I leave tomorrow morning, like at 4:15 for Vegas for my niece's wedding to Nevada. So I was trying to get everything done so I wouldn't have to bring my computer with me. Well, that didn't happen, so I'm going to have to bring my computer to homework while I'm there. So good luck with that, I guess.
Thanks. Sounds like we're all ready for this semester to be done.
Yeah, well, and the problem is, and Brother Spalding's been great because I reached out to him and he was like, take as much time as you need. He goes, I can't change anything with the exam, but I can certainly, the assignments, just get them to me before the semester ends. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's great. But I'm like, crap, there's only 2 weeks left. So.
Well, that's good though. That's nice of him.
Yeah, he was really, really very, very, very accommodating, which is wonderful. I haven't heard back from my other teachers yet, so. So I'm kind of putting this off because I know he said he would work with me to try and see what I have to do with the other one. So.
Right.
It's all up in the air. So, all right.
Cool. I'm just trying to get into
The book.
Connect real quick here. And we can get started.
And this is chapter 16, right? We're on.
I don't remember exactly what chapter it was. It's lesson 12.
Okay, yeah, it's lesson 12. All right. That's how I am right now. I'm like, what? I don't even know what lesson we're on. So.
Okay, here we go. Selena, you still with us? Maybe.
Yeah, she's muted.
I am here. I'm just having trouble getting my phone to let me unmute.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Cool. Well, question 1. So a consumer holds money to meet spending needs. This would be an example of I had transactions demand for money. And a lot of these I wasn't very sure about, so definitely tell me if you get something different.
Well, I mean, if you look under the definition of transaction demand for money, it says the amount of money people want to hold for use as a medium of exchange.
Right, yeah.
That makes sense to me.
Cool.
So you're just agreeing with the transaction, right, Joan?
No, no, transactions demand for money, that's the definition of it, the amount of money people want to hold.
Yeah.
And that's what it says, a consumer holds. I think it's the wording of hold money, that's what's making me think that that's correct, because they're using that same term.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
All right, a decrease in the interest rate will cause I had the fourth one. Does anybody have anything different?
Increase in the money held.
No, I had that too, and it's on that first section underneath, just right above where it says origin of the idea, because it says when the interest rate rises, the public reacts by reducing its holdings of money as an asset. So this opposite would be true. Interest rate goes down, they're going to increase the holding as an asset. So I have the same one, Colby.
Perfect. Still trying to pull up Connect here. I'm almost there. My computer gets slow when I'm on Google Hangouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. That's why I've been using my phone for the Hangout.
Oh, yeah. Okay, question 3. There's an asset demand for money primarily because of which function of money? And I had store of value.
The value, yep.
Okay. An increase in nominal GDP will... So this one, I was trying to decide between the first and third one. And I think it's the first one, but I'm not sure. Did you guys have any input on that?
I got nothing, so whatever, what did you
Yeah,
have?
I was leaning the same way as you, Colby, but I'm not 100% sure.
Gotcha. I found a few places where increase of transactions demand is correct, but I couldn't quite find. I think it's transactions demand and total demand for money, but I'm not sure about the second part.
The level of nominal GDP is the main determinant of the money of demand for transactions. The larger the total money value of all goods and services exchanged in the economy, the larger the amount of money needed to negotiate. The transactions demand for money varies directly with nominal GDP. In both instances, a larger dollar volume will be needed to accomplish the desired transaction. So we graph the quantity of money demanded for transactions against the interest rate. Each dollar held for transaction purposes is spent an average of 3 times per year, and at nominal GDP. Oh my gosh! I don't know why they can't just answer the question. So, you know, all that about nominal GDP, it still doesn't say an increase in nominal GDP, what it'll do.
Yeah. Let me see.
We specify nominal GDP because households and homes are for transactions prices increases. All right, so it says we specify nominal GDP because households and firms will want more money for transactions if prices rise or if real output increases. So an increase.
Well, because it says here demand for money varies directly with nominal GDP. So
Okay.
it's not an inverse, right? It's a direct correlation. So that's why I was thinking it was number 1 top answer.
So we're good with number 1.
Okay.
I am.
Okay. All right, the next one, this graph, I had the first one, line 1.
Me too.
That just comes from 16.1 graph B.
Yeah.
Right.
Down slope, okay. Number 6, when the interest rate falls, the I have the total amount of money demanded increases, which also comes from graph B.
And that makes sense.
Yeah. Okay, so the total amount, not just the asset demand.
Yeah. All right, and I didn't have number 7.
In the cost
I read through this question like 5 times and I was still confused.
In the cause effect chain, you can change the bank's asset reserve resulting change in output from an economy. Oh my gosh.
I don't understand that question.
Yeah.
All right, so let's see. The cause and effect chain linkage changes in the bank's excess reserve. So section 16.2, we're talking about the reserve banks. The cause effect chain can changes in the bank's excess reserve. And there's different changes in output and employment economy. I'm not really sure what the cause and effect that they're talking about there. I don't know. Seven would just be a guess, I guess, but I don't know what to.
So changes in the banks, so if you link the change in the excess reserves to the resulting changes in the output, is that what the question's asking us to do? Change in excess reserves.
Well, it's saying what would happen
Changes in output and employment.
banks if the bank's excess reserves and the resulting changes in output and employment in the economy. Like, what's kind of the cause and effect to make that happen? Linking changes in the bank's excess and the resulting change in output and employment.
So because those are the basis on which the commercial banks and thrifts can earn profit by lending and thus creating checkable deposit money, the nation's money supply will rise. It will lower the interest rate, increasing investment, aggregate demand, and equilibrium GDP, but it doesn't mention employment. But it would increase output.
Okay, so in the ending of chapter 16, it says, monetary policy affects the economy through a complex cause-effect chain. A policy decisions affect commercial bank reserves, changes in reserves affect the money supply, changes in the money supply after the interest rate, changes in the interest rate affect investment, changes in investment affect aggregate demand, changes in aggregate demand affect the equilibrium real GDP and price level. What?
Yeah, I read that as well, and it just confused me more.
Yeah, so in the paragraph above that, it says the Fed can do different things to increase the money supply, right? So they can buy securities, that's one. They can lower the legal reserve ratio, that's two. They can lower the discount rate for number three, or they can reduce the interest rate. So that's opposite of the way that the questions, or the way the answers read. Because it says the intended outcome will be an increase in excess reserves and a decline in the federal funds rate, but because of the excess reserves being increased, there's more checkable money supply and the interest rate will go down. So it says right there, an increase in the money supply will decrease the rate of interest.
Okay.
That's the best I can do.
That's good too.
This
That's
seems crazy.
better than what I found.
Yeah, well, if you look under figure 16.5 in 16.5 monetary policy, it kind of gives like the example looking at the graphs there.
Yeah,
It
the
says
cause effect chain.
Yeah, shifts the money supply curve rightward, lowers the interest rate. As a result, investment spending increases, shifting the aggregate demand curve rightward, so the real output rises from recessionary level to the full employment level. So I guess,
So that matches what we were talking about, right?
yep.
Okay, I feel better.
So we're saying it, what number did we say 7 was then?
Number 2.
Number 2.
An increase in the money supply will decrease the rate of interest. Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. Woo! Onward and upward.
Like, holy cow.
All right, does anybody have anything else to add to that? That's as good as I have.
No.
Let's skip to number 8. The purpose of an expansionary monetary policy is to increase real GDP.
I mean, that makes sense. Purpose of expansionary monetary policy.
So on the very last page under terms and concepts, for expansionary monetary policy, it says Federal Reserve System actions to increase the money supply, lower interest rates, and expand real GDP.
Okay. That makes sense.
Are you guys still there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get number 8 there, Selena?
Sorry. Yeah, you guys slipped away for a minute, but number 8 we agreed was real GDP. Is that right, or did that change?
Yeah.
Yep,
That's what I think it is.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I just missed a little bit of the conversation.
Okay. All right, then number 9, what is one of the advantages of monetary policy over fiscal policy? This one, I put the quickness with which it can be used.
Yeah, that's the closest I could
Okay.
find, because it says in the chapter that the advantages of monetary policy include its flexibility and political acceptability. So I was trying to translate that into quiz language.
Let me check my notes. Okay. All right, well, what I had listed is where I found it on my notes. I'm not finding it, so I'm not sure if I just wrote that down wrong or what.
Well, so
Okay.
in 16.6,
Yeah, right at the very top right there.
yeah, so it talks about flexibility and political acceptability. So monetary policy has 2 major limitations and potential problems. A, recognition and operation lags.
But it
So
says,
maybe, is it really?
it says compared with
Go ahead.
fiscal policy, monetary policy can be quickly altered.
Right. So that's what, I mean, because that and the political acceptability, I think.
Yeah, I mean those two bullet points right there on the top of 16.6 talking about the monetary policy. It has two key advantages over fiscal policy, and it says speed and flexibility as one of them.
Mhm.
That's the
So I'm
closest
good with
thing I-
that. Yep.
All right, and then from here on out, I just kind of hit and miss which ones I had. I didn't have number 10 or 11.
Yeah, I think it's inflation, but I haven't had a chance to find it yet.
Reduce inflation for number 10.
Yeah, but I'm not sure.
I looked up this one for quite a good amount of time, and I never really found an answer.
Uh,
Give me just a moment.
It's in 16.4. So let's see if it gives a similar example. So in an expansionary policy, they increase the supply of reserves by reducing the fund's rate. So they're trying to, it sounds like they're trying to ease monetary policy.
All right, sorry about that. I'm back.
So, sorry, for inflation, they actually increase the rate, so I had that backwards. And then they would decrease it in an expansionary policy. So they could be trying to raise interest rates. So the Fed will lower the interest rate to bolster borrowing and spending in an expansionary policy. So easing monetary policy might be it. Let's see here.
Federal Reserve System actions to increase the supply of interest rate and expand the original payment and even money policy.
So an expansionary policy is considered a loose policy, and a restrictive one is the tight policy. And so if they cut the rate, then that's an expansionary tactic. So I would think they're trying to ease the monetary policy.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
And that was from that same section, 16.4.
Or okay. When the feds want to lower the federal fund rate, it's to lower the federal fund rate. Interest rates.
So what does it do in order to lower the rate?
Yeah, I didn't have this one either.
So the immediate step is to announce a lower target for the rate. To achieve that rate, the Fed will use open market operations to buy bonds from banks and the public. So that's the answer, the third one.
Oh, really? Where'd you find that?
It's 16.4. It's about the fourth line down under expansionary monetary policy. So to achieve the lower rate, the Fed will use open market operations to buy bonds from banks and the public. So the purchase of bonds increases the reserve in the banking system.
Okay, cool. All
So
right,
that's pretty much the order.
Yeah, I didn't find that earlier. I can't believe it. Okay. And then for 12, this is another one on the federal funds rate. Let's see, it's the federal funds rate. I had the third one, increases the prime interest rate will increase. but I don't know. I wasn't sure about that one.
Well, does it go the same way or does it go opposite? You know what I mean? That's what.
So if the federal funds, so how is the federal funds rate linked to the prime rate, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I know how it impacts my credit card. But okay, so let's see right here. Under 16.6, monetary evaluation and issues, see, or at least that's where it took me.
It says the prime interest rate is higher than the federal funds rate because the prime rate involves longer, more risky loans than overnight loans between banks.
So, okay, so if prime rate is higher than the Fed, then if the Fed increases, the prime would increase, right?
Yep. But the Fed funds rate and the prime interest rate closely track one another.
So they're correlated.
The prime interest rate rises and falls with the changes in the federal funds rate. So it goes it would then go at the same time, increase, and they both increase and they both increase, right?
That's what
I think so.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like to me.
The other one is like if one increases, the other one decreases. If it decreases, it increases, and it doesn't go opposite. It follows each other. So if they're both increasing.
Wait. So we know it's not number 4. We know it's not number 1 because those are opposites. Number 2 are opposites. I think it has to be that third one. If Fed increases, then the prime will increase.
Right.
Okay. All right.
All right. Then let's see here.
So assets. So all other assets is listed as assets. That's funny. And then what else is listed as assets for the Federal Reserve? Treasury deposits and reserves, or reserves out of commercial banks? No, I think it's, no, that's not right. Let's see. Okay, so 16.2 talks about the balance sheet of the Federal Reserve. So assets are securities and loans to commercial banks. So it's 4 and 6, the fourth answer.
Where was
Okay.
it?
So it's under 16.2 in the section marked assets. It says the two main assets of the Federal Reserve banks are securities and loans to commercial banks. And then obviously all other assets qualifies.
Right.
The main tools that the Fed can use to alter the reserve of commercial banks are the required reserve ratio and the following, except to alter
the reserves. Tools of monetary policy. That's 16.3, maybe. So they can use open market operations, right? So they can buy and sell bonds and securities. So
Yep.
that one's good. And then let's see, the reserve ratio. So the interest on the reserves.
so they can
So yeah, right here, first thing on 16.3, the Feds has four main tools of monetary control it can use to alter the reserves of commercial banks. That's open market operations, the reserve ratio, the discount rate, and interest on reserves.
So the exchange rate is the one that they don't use, and that's what it's asking for.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Okay. The lending ability of commercial banks increases when the
Well, we know it's not number one.
Right. I don't really think it's number 2 either.
No. So it's either selling security. When the Federal Reserve banks sell government bonds, commercial bank reserves are reduced. So when they buy bonds, let's see. The reserves of commercial banks increase when the government buys bonds. So I think it's the Fed buys securities in the open market.
Sorry, do you want to read that sentence one more time?
Yeah, it's in 16.3, and it says, suppose the Fed decides to have the Federal Reserve banks buy government bonds. They can purchase these bonds either from commercial banks or from the public. In both cases, the reserves of the commercial banks will increase. So if their reserves increase, then they can make more loans.
Right.
Right. Okay, cool. And for number 16, the fundamental objective of monetary policy is to assist the economy in achieving, and I had full employment is definitely one of them, and I think the other one is non-inflationary level, so to decrease inflation. I had the third one.
So 16.3, let's see here. No, sorry, that wasn't it. So you said it was full employment and a non-inflationary level of output?
Yeah. I'm pretty confident about the full employment, and I think
well, their job's not to balance the budget, and it's not the gold standard. And yeah, I think you're right. Rapid pace of economic growth isn't as strong an answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 17.
The Federal Reserve alters the amount of the nation's money supply by reducing the liability.
We know they're not making coins. They don't control the assets, but they manipulate the size of excess reserves held by commercial banks. We know they do that.
Yep. We know they don't mint more coins and currency.
Right.
So I think because it was talking before about, they manipulate this and they manipulate that. So I think that's the key word.
Manipulate?
Sad but true. If the Fed sells government securities to the general public in the open market.
Okay, so when the Fed sells securities to the public, the outcome is much the same as when they sell it to commercial banks. So then the public pays a check drawn on the bank, the Federal Reserve clears the check, which reduces their reserves, and then the bank returns the canceled check to the individual, reducing their checkable deposit. So let's see. Okay, so we know it's not the third or fourth one because when the Fed sells the bonds to the public doesn't give it to the Fed, so we can take those out. So the Fed gives the securities to the public pays for the securities by writing checks, and then when they're cleared, they either increase or decrease commercial bank reserves. They would decrease the reserves. Does that sound right?
Well,
I didn't even get to that one, so I'm just going to trust you on that.
Well, because it says, you know, the Fed sells the government bonds to the public. So the public pays with a check drawn on the bank, and then when the Federal Reserve clears the check, then it reduces the reserves.
correct.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, so it's number 2.
Yeah. Okay. So number 19, the Fed can induce banks to increase their reserve holdings by doing what?
Thanks to increase.
So, well, if they want them to increase their reserves, they could. Would they reduce the required reserve ratio? I wouldn't think so. That influences lending. And the discount rate encourages them to borrow from the Fed. They probably don't want them to do that. Interest on reserves. What you got?
Well, and again, I haven't read this. I'm just trying to think logically, I guess. So if they want to increase their reserve holdings, if they reduce the required reserve ratio, so if it was they had to hold 20%, now they only have to hold 10.
Well, here's something from 2008. Before 2008, any reserves held on deposit were paid 0 interest, so they didn't have any incentive to have a higher reserve. So then they started to pay interest on reserves, which encouraged banks to hold higher reserves. So I think if they increase the interest on reserves, that's what would accomplish that.
Yeah, I think it's 3 as well.
Where is that at?
It's under interest on reserves in 16 point. Sorry, I have to scroll up to see where I am. Oh, I cannot scroll today. It's 16.3, and it's more than halfway down the page under the interest on reserves.
Okay.
Kind of gives a description.
And the Fed lowered short-term rates to near 0, but the policy didn't seem to stimulate the economy enough. The Fed in 2009 also began conducting policy of expansive buying of bonds. Now,
is that right? Let me try this.
Okay, well, I unfortunately have to get going here.
Okay.
I have to make it to my meeting. Just in case you're wondering, for 20, I put QE, quantitative easing.
QE, okay.
But you guys can discuss that, but I have to get going. I apologize.
Thanks, Colby. Appreciate it.
Yeah, sure thing. I'll talk to you guys next week.
take care.
Yeah, goodbye.
Okay, I haven't read this part yet.
Okay.
Quantitative easing, oh, I can't even type it in. I'm trying to use the search. No.
Zero interest rate policy.
Okay.
After the Great Recession, let's say so. Monetary policy in which a central bank sets nominal interest rates or near 0% per year in order to stimulate the economy. They lowered to near 0, but the policy didn't seem to stimulate the economy enough. The Fed in 2009 also began conducting the policy of expansive buying of bonds, known as quantitative.
So this is yeah, that's what it is. Because the definition of quantitative easing is an open market operation in which bonds are purchased by a central bank in order to increase the quantity of excess reserves held by commercial banks.
Yep. And it even says right
everybody
here,
likes the economy.
yep, and it says the first round of quantitative easing began in March 2009. So
Yeah, okay, so we're good.
we're going to go with that.
All righty.
Whew.
That's just scary stuff right there.
Just right? It's crazy stuff.
All right, so who took the quiz last week?
Nobody. We didn't get together last week.
Oh, because I was driving and I missed all the emails and everything.
And Colby couldn't get on, and Mike couldn't. I thought Mike was going to get on, but then he kind of never did. So I think everybody was just not around. So
Yeah.
I'll take it because I haven't taken it in a while.
Oh, okay. Oh, I'm looking at this and I'm like, it doesn't say I can do it. I was looking at lesson 11. I was freaking. I thought it wasn't going to let me take the quiz.
When you have all the answers right here, it would go a lot quicker, but it seems to. Alrighty. We got 100.
Okay, awesome.
I know.
That's great news. Especially because half of that was just us searching on the fly to try to find this. I think what really is helpful is that a lot of this can kind of, I mean, it really correlates with what we've learned already, right?
Yeah, so that's
And so
helpful.
I feel like I'm starting to understand it.
That you have 2 weeks left. It's finally starting to click.
That helps me on the exam. You know, I didn't do too well. I didn't do very well on the first 2 exams.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a solid C on both exams, so it doesn't look like there's a final in this class. It looks like it's just the 3 exams, right?
Yeah, he said it was not cumulative, so we should be okay.
Oh, thank goodness. Okay, it's a good thing. Well, thank you. I'm sorry I wasn't really a lot of help this evening because.
Oh, you know what? You did great. I'm just glad you're all right.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's just so frustrating. So frustrating. You know, you try to be grateful, you know, and they're like, "Oh no, everything's fine," because it was heart related, you know. So they were like, echocardiogram, stress test, nuclear stress test, CAT scan, you know, and it's like, well, no, we need to check that. Oh wait, no, wait, and then like the final test was the nuclear stress test. They're like, everything's perfect. Go home. Like, could we not have started with that test?
I don't know. Oh, that's too bad. You know, I had a scare like that one time, and I had a lot of that same kind of stuff, and it turns out the only reason my heart was giving me problems is because I was stressed out. So it made it worse by them, you know, stressing me out with all their tests and making me nervous and scared.
Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. You know, I'm sitting there and I'm like crying, and they're like, oh, you know, it's okay. If there's a problem, we'll just take you into the cath lab. And I'm like, what, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So, but everything's fine.
Oh.
Thank goodness. So,
Okay. Well, good luck catching up on all that homework.
all right. Have a good week.
Well, see you next week. Bye-bye.
Take care.